Okay, so let's go over the Chapter 6 study guide. And so number 1, write the percent as a decimal. We are going to move our decimal point, which is after the 5. And we're going to move it to the left twice. So this becomes 0.15 or 0 and 1500ths. For number 2, it says to write the decimal as a percent. So we just work the opposite direction. So we are going to move our decimal 2 places to the right, and this becomes 34%. Write 3/4 as a percent. So to do this, we take our top number divided by our bottom number. So we do 3 divided by 4. And when we do this, we get 0 and 75 hundredths. But that's a decimal, so we need to make it into a percent. So we're going to move the decimal 2 places to the right. And so this now becomes 75%. What percent of 75 is 36? So this is when we use is over of is equal to our percent over 100. So of 75, so 75 goes on the bottom of our fraction, is 36. So 36 goes on top of our fraction, is going to be equal to something over 100. So we're just going to put a letter up there. You can use P, you can use X, whatever you want. And then we multiply diagonal. And then we divide by our third number. So when we do this, we get 48%. What number is 86%? So that has our percent sign, and then of 50. So again, we're going to use is over of is equal to our percent over 100, because a percent is always out of 100. So we have 86%, so 86 over 100 of 50, so that's going to go on the bottom of our fraction. And so we don't know what number is on the top, so we are going to multiply diagonally, and then we divide by our third number. So this gives us 43 as our answer. 44 is 55%, that has our percent sign, of what number? Again, we use is over of, which is equal to our percent over 100. So 44 is, so 44 will go on top. 55%, it has the percent sign, so that goes over 100. And then put a letter in the missing place. Multiply diagonally. And then we divide by our third number. So we get that x equals 80. Find the percent of increase from 58 pounds to 83 pounds. Round to the nearest tenth of a percent if necessary. So we're going to use the formula original minus new, and we always keep the positive, so we take the absolute value, and then we divide that answer by our original. So our original in this case is 58, and it increased to 83, so that's our new. So we're going to do 58 minus 83, and we're going to divide that by 58. So 58 minus 83 gives us negative 25, but we take the absolute value, which means it's going to be a positive 25, divided by 58. And that gives us 0.4310, and then it just keeps going. So now we need to make that into a percent. So you can either hit times 100 or we can move that decimal 2 places. So now we have 43.1, and we don't need that 0 because we want to the nearest tenth, which means we want 1 place after our decimal. So my answer is 43 1/10%. Find the percent decrease from 87 to 16 pounds. Round your answer the nearest tenth of a percent if necessary. So we're going to use the formula, original minus new. We take the absolute value of that and we divide it by our original. So our original was 87 and now we decreased to 16. So we have 87 minus 16. We take the absolute value of that and we divide it by 87. 87 minus 16 is 71. Divided by 87 gives us 0.8160, and it keeps going. We need to either multiply it by 100 or move the decimal place 2 times. So this gives us 81.6, and since this is a 0, we keep the 6 as it is. And so this becomes 81.6, or 81 6/10%. You estimate that there's 75 marbles in a jar. The actual amount is 82. Find the percent error. Round your answer to the nearest tenth of a percent. So we use the formula estimate minus our actual, and we keep it as a positive. We take the absolute value, and then we divide it by our actual. And then to make it a percent, we times it by 100, or we move that decimal 2 places. So this means that I have an estimate of 75 minus my 82, which was my actual, and then I divide it by 82 because that's my actual. I'm going to make sure to take the absolute value of that when I subtract. So 75 minus 82 gives me negative 7, but we want the absolute value, so we keep it as a positive, and then we divide by our actual. 7 divided by 82 gives me 0.0853, and then we need to move our decimal 2 places or multiply by 100. So this gives me 8 and I keep my 5 because my 3 is below 5, so it doesn't change my next number. So I keep one number after my decimal, and that's going to be 5. So 8.5% or 8.5% is my answer. Find the sale price of a $90 item after 50% discount. So I'm going to take 90 and I'm going to multiply that by my percent of my discount. Remember, we have to move that decimal twice before we can put it in our equation. So this gives me 45. And then I have to do 90 minus my discount, and that gives me $45, which makes sense because we had half off. So my sale price is now $45. Find the selling price of a $25 item after 40% markup. So before I can use it, I need to move my decimal twice, and I move it to the left. So I have $25 item times 0.40, and that is going to give me 10. Then it's a markup, which means I add it. So I'm going to add 25 plus 10, and that gives me $35. So this is a $35 selling price now. You deposit $400 into an account. When I deposit $400, that means I started with that, so that's my principal. The account earns $75 or $72 of simple interest. So this is my I. If you earn it, we know that's going to be I. And then for 6 years, that's my time. So we have I equals P times R times T. So I have 72 equals 400 times my rate times my time, which was 6 years. I'm going to multiply my 400 and my 6 to simplify that side. So that gives me $2,400 times my rate. So I just keep it as R equals 72. To get R by itself, we do the opposite. So we're multiplying by 2,400. So now we're going to divide by 2,400. And so these cancel. So I have R equals 0.03. Then I need to make it a percent. So I'm going to move my decimal 2 times to the right. So I get 3%. You deposit $600 into a savings account. So I deposit, which is P. It earns 10% simple interest. So it has the percent sign. So we know that's R. And that's just saying per year. So now I want to know what is the interest after 10 years. So this is going to be my time. So I have I equals P times R times T. So I have 600 times my rate, which means I need to turn that into a decimal. So I'm going to move that 2 times to the left. So times 0.10 times my time, which was 10 years. So this gives me, all I do is plug this whole thing into my calculator. And that should give you $600 equals I. So this is $600. To find your balance after 10 years, we take our interest plus our principal. So I'm going to do 600 plus 600. And that gives me $1,200 after 10 years. Order the numbers from least to greatest. I'm going to put them all as percents. I think that's always easier to see it. So this is already a percent, so we have 22.5%. This, I'm going to do 1 divided by 5, and that gives me 0 and 20 hundredths, or it might just show up in your calculator as 0.2. But then to make it a percent, I move that decimal to the right twice, and so I have to fill it in with a 0. So that gives me 20%. So this is now 20%. And then to get my decimal as a percent, I'm going to move that decimal 2 times to the right. So I get 21%. This makes it easier to see from least to greatest. So we want our smallest one first, which would be 1/5. Then we want our second smallest, which would be 21%, which was our 0 and 21 hundredths. And then finally, we want our largest number, which is 22.5%.